Hi, this is Sally Morgan with a dog hair in my nose, physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington T-Touch practitioner for animals and people. This is Tristan. He's a Corgi, and it's finally summer here in New England. Spring just came and went. But the leaves still aren't open on the trees, so there's hope for spring. Anyway, today it's very important that I talk to you about something that's been happening in Corgi Nation that means so much to so many people, and that is the story of a little dog named Grayson. And I have this stuffed dog from Lisa Van Hale Johnson that is George's brother, and I didn't have a name for him. And after the story of Grayson, I've decided to name this little stuffed guy, the only tricolor Corgi in my house, really. I'm going to name him Grayson in honor of this amazing, wonderful dog. So I'll fill you in for those who don't know his story, and for those who do, it's a sad day for us. We lost Grayson yesterday. So Grayson and his brother Duncan were found by Carolina Dog Rescue, a wonderful organization, in deplorable conditions. Little Duncan he's like 4, he has heartworm, and he needs to undergo treatment for that, which is not always easy, can be life-threatening, so he's got a road ahead of him. And then his older, we call him brother, but not really, was Grayson. And Grayson came into the shelter with tremendous wounds all over his bottom half from laying in filth and maggots, which, sounds awful, but they do eat the infection. So having maggots in a wound is not as bad as it sounds. And it may have helped him, actually. And he had all kinds of other problems. He was blind in both eyes. It looked like serious glaucoma and neglect and cataracts, of course. And he also had wounds on the upper half of his body and mats and filth in his fur. And Carolina Dog Rescue somehow connected with Laura Lawson, who is a wonderful dog lover in North Carolina, who took in these 2 Corgis to get them ready to go to their permanent foster home. And Duncan was home after a couple of days, after a checkup and just general fixing up at the vet. And then poor little Grayson had to stay at the hospital a few days. It was really touch and go. He was doing better when he was on the IV fluids, but then he would go downhill, and he just seemed lost. And, laying at the vet's, he wasn't eating much. He was having trouble pooping. He just had so much going on. I don't even know that they really fully diagnosed all of his problems, but he was medically complex. And he got to go home with Laura for the weekend on Saturday or Friday night. And she was working. She has a very busy job, very busy time of year at her job. And she was doing tremendous work to take care of these 2 dogs. And she posted a wonderful picture of Grayson and Duncan and the reunion in her yard. And his pleasure, his absolute delight, just laying in the sunshine and breathing in the fresh air was so touching. I mean, anybody who saw these videos instantly fell in love with Grayson and Duncan and their story, and Laura, who helped them so much. So poor Grayson. I shouldn't say poor Grayson, because things did work out well for him in the long run, but it's such a shock to me that I'm still not quite done processing it. Grayson stayed home for the whole weekend. He was eating a little better. Laura was able to take him outside quite a bit. He had his own little bed, and he was in shock, basically, and hypothermic when they found him. So even though they're in North Carolina and it's warm, he was laying under blankets and towels to keep his body temperature up. That was one of the big problems when he came in. His core temperature had dropped. And he had a wonderful weekend visiting her, and we were all sad that he had to go back to the vet on Monday. And I guess he had some visitors, and she was able to bring him home again that night. And thank God, because she was with him Tuesday and Wednesday before work, and he started to really go downhill on Wednesday night, Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. And Laura had to bring him back to the vet. And she spent time with him there. And, everybody was sending messages of love and compassion and healing to Laura and this dog. I mean, her life is so full, and every minute she wasn't absolutely in demand, she was doing everything she could to help Grayson and Duncan. And she has like 4 other dogs. So it was a tremendous effort on her part. And she rushed Grayson to the vet yesterday morning before work. He was not breathing well and he looked poorly. And they got him there, and he needed to cross the Rainbow Bridge. So Laura was able to stay with him and tell him over and over how much she loved him and how beautiful he was and how many people cared about him, so that when he crossed to the Rainbow Bridge, the last words he heard was, "I love you," which in his sad life, he probably didn't hear. He was a breeding dog in a fly-by-night kind of puppy mill operation, and I am sure Duncan is missing him and not knowing that he's not coming home. And Laura, of course, is devastated because her life has been consumed with taking care of him. But there are many, many messages in the story of Grayson that are so important. And one of them is that sometimes animals come into our lives for reasons that are bigger than what we in our small human world can see. And I strongly believe that Grayson came to her on purpose to get that overwhelming love that he got from his Facebook posts and from Laura and from her friends and from the people at the vet, because he hadn't known that in his life. And with so many other dogs and her work in foster and rescue, she understands when they need to go, and she would be able to help him in a way that would be the least painful for everyone involved. So in his wisdom, his higher self managed to find Laura and find a place where he could pass peacefully and well loved and surrounded. She said he had like 4,000 people following him on Facebook. 4,000 people were sending him love all day yesterday and for the last 5 days. And it filled his cup a little bit from what had happened in his life. I think he was 10 or 12 years old. And one of the other things that Grayson can teach us is the power of animals in our lives. I mean, this little dog, there were some people that were mad at each other in Corgi Nation, and there were people having difficulties with their own losses, but people just rallied behind this dog. I mean, any number of hundreds of people would have given him a fabulous home if he had made it to that point. And yet, you know, what happened is perfect, and we can't second guess it. Grayson found his home with Laura, and she was able to give him 4, 5, 6 days of a high quality of life that he had not seen before. And he was able to pass with dignity, cleaned up, brushed out, shaved, and, you know, his body brought back to the best place it could be, so that he didn't have to die in filth and overcome with disease. He was loved, he was clean, he was cared for, and thousands of people felt the same way about little Grayson. So I think it's really significant that my little stuffed George's brother didn't have a name. He came to me from Ellen, who won him in an auction with his brothers, and I said, I think my George guy needs a little brother. And Grayson is much bigger than George, but it's just a miracle he didn't have a name. And when I thought, where's my tricolor Corgi, I knew that this guy was Grayson. And I am sure, I have no doubt that Grayson will come back to wonderful Laura sometime in her life as another Corgi puppy, or in one of her other dogs, or in some way connect with her, because what she did was so courageous and so selfless and so generous. She helped him more than anyone in the world had ever helped him. And I think Grayson was able to go to heaven peacefully, knowing that he was well loved. And the power of dogs to bring us together, and our concern for them and our great love for them, is just remarkable. I mean, a day doesn't go by when I don't say at least once, thank God we have dogs. Thank the universe. Thank nature. Thank the Corgi spirits that we have dogs, because they just are angels for real. There's no coincidence that dog is God spelled backwards or God is dog spelled backwards, because they show us so much love and teach us so many lessons. And somewhere today I will find time to read Buddy's Candle and think about Grayson and the wonderful dog that he was. And everyone, please send love to Duncan, because he's still got a hard road ahead of him. And I don't know if he's staying at Laura's or going somewhere else, but you know, he's younger and he's a bit of a rascal, so he's recovering in his way, but he's very shy. He didn't come out of his crate for a couple of days. It's really hard for these rescued dogs to know that they can trust and really be fully who they are. And the pictures that we saw of Grayson sleeping comfortably on his bed, sprawled out on his back, were just remarkable. No one that saw these pictures did not have their heart touched by this amazing spirit of Grayson. So, Laura, thank you for taking such good care of this little guy, and thank you for sharing his story with us, because we all learned so much from our time with him. And I wrote to her immediately and said, when I'm working on my book, which is going to be about animals in the afterlife, Grayson's story will certainly be in that book. And I hope that I get it right. I have to write some things down in the next couple of days so that I can convey his story in the most compelling way. So thank you, Corgi Nation, for your support for Grayson and Laura, and for all of the dogs that you care for and rescue and give love to and help over the Rainbow Bridge. It's such a hard job we have. So thanks for joining us for this emotional episode of Conversations with a Corgi. It's just such an incredible thing, this little guy. And Danny just wrote that Grayson was an angel on earth, and in fact, Grayson is now a guardian angel for Laura and all of the people that helped him, and for all of the other corgis that are suffering and looking for a home. So thanks for joining us today. Everybody have a great day. Enjoy this beautiful weather while we have it. And if you live in a place where these storms are, stay safe. And we will see you back here tomorrow. I might be a little late tomorrow too, because I have to repurple my hair for all the events this weekend, which is an extra hour in my morning. So hopefully we'll be not much later than 20 of 9 or 10 of 9 or something like that. So thanks for joining us. Everybody enjoy the weather, and we'll see you soon.